What is democracy without elections? I know this is beginning to sound like one of those riddles you get in old joke books, but it's not. It's really important that for a second year running, local council elections could be cancelled, affecting millions of people. In May of this year, elections were cancelled in local authorities covering 5.5 million voters, and something similar could be about to happen in 2026. So Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has refused to rule out cancelling elections. But what sort of a democracy are we where the Prime Minister decides when elections take place and when they don't? Let's look into the history of this as to what has happened before and why this is being proposed. First of all, it has happened before. It's happened before under both Conservative and Labour governments when there's been reorganisation of local councils. But it's happened for one or two councils in small specified areas. It hasn't previously ever happened across great swathes of the country with a party that is uniquely unpopular while in government. So yes, there is precedent, but not a precedent that really covers the current circumstances. And what is the argument for it? The argument for it is so-called English devolution, but it isn't English devolution. It is, in fact, contemptuous of England as a nation, because whereas Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland have national institutions, assemblies, or parliament, England isn't to be granted that. England isn't to be treated as a grand and proud nation, a nation of the greatest antiquity. Instead, it's to be cut up into lots and lots of bureaucratic areas that bear no relation necessarily to historic boundaries. If they do, it's coincidence rather than deliberate government policy. And this is being done in the name of efficiency, of tidying up. The government thinks that district councils and county councils are inefficient, and if you just have one layer, it will work better. It's almost certainly nonsense. It's the general view of Whitehall that bigger is better. It rarely turns out to be true. It usually turns out to be more expensive and less immediately responsive to local needs. But it's the continuation of a policy the Conservatives had, one, as it happens, I opposed because I thought it failed to understand the historic counties, the bit of England that has a relevance to how people understand their nation and how they think of themselves. Interestingly, until 1974, the historic counties had been untouched since before the conquest. They'd had over 900 years of uninterrupted, as a minimum, of uninterrupted status, with the exception of Middlesex, until administrative tidying up, that great watchword of the bureaucrat, decided that they should be no more, or they should be fiddled around with. So it's part of that process. The big is beautiful. Let's be tidy. Let's make things easier for the bureaucrats and more remote from the voters. It's that type of approach. And as I say, to call it English devolution is dishonest. It fails to answer the fundamental Home Rule question posed by Balfour and others before him, when Irish Home Rule was all the talk, that Ireland, Scotland, Wales can all have devolution of one kind or another to countries, but England's simply too big. It would be too big a constituent part of the United Kingdom if it were to be ruled separately, and it would be the dominant force as an independent, devolved power against Whitehall and Westminster, and so of course it won't happen. Not sure I'm in favour of it happening as an aside, but that this is not it. This is not proper devolution, but it is a proper attack on democracy. And it's quite interesting to see what some of the people have said, because I'm afraid to say the local councillors don't want elections either. So more than 5 million voters could be disenfranchised, and I'm taking this from the Times. And local councils are in favour because they think the votes will be inconvenient, and that leaders of these councils, including Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, Surrey, East and West Sussex and Hampshire, are lobbying for further delays to 2027. Why are they lobbying for this? Because it would be administratively inconvenient. But surely democracy is always administratively inconvenient. Frankly, from the administration of my own personal affairs, it would have been easier if I'd remained an MP last year. No doubt for the authorities of the House of Commons, there would have been less to do. But that's not really the point. The point about democracy is it gives voters what they want, not the administrators. And you've got one council leader who says, and again quoting the Times, officially we're prepared to go ahead, but privately we're saying elections would be a huge waste. Officials and councillors would spend months preparing for them, and then you would probably get a reform administration which will frustrate the process. Another leader said, we are lobbying hard for the elections to be delayed because we're confident we will get reform mayors next year. Having reform mayors and reform council leaders who are all brand new will create instability as to what's gone before and what needs to be achieved. Now, this is absolutely outrageous, unbelievable that a council leader should have said such a thing. But these council leaders have given the game away. They don't want elections because they think they'll lose. And they think they'll lose to reform. And of course it would be inconvenient to have a change of administration. It always is. That is the point of democracy. It was inconvenient for the Biden administration when they all lost their jobs, but it was convenient for Donald Trump. It was inconvenient for Rishi Sunak, but it was convenient for Keir Starmer. That's the way elections work. And it really is outrageous because not only does it subvert democracy, but there's also money in it. This is so Tammany Hall that Labour councillors, Conservative councillors, any councillor in office will get an extra year, in some cases now an extra 2 years, of your taxpayers' cash when the voters probably don't want them there anymore. So this is a form of corruption with taxpayers' money designed specifically to stop voters having what they want. Now, I want people to vote Conservative. I want the Conservatives to control and win councils. But actually, democracy is more important. Not about us being in office, it's about us being in office because people give us the mandate to do it. And as I say, those councillors have been quoted, of course, anonymously. Cowards. Put your heads above the parapet, say who you are, be honest about it. But those cowardly county councillors are not willing to face their voters because they think they're unpopular and they wrap it up as inconvenience. This is the claim of the bureaucratic dictator throughout the ages. It is always less bother to carry on with the status quo. But voters must be entitled to what they vote for and what they wish to vote for. And I would say to any Conservative who is involved with this, you should be ashamed of yourself. It is never Conservative to hide from the voters. It is never Conservative to keep payments going to yourself out of taxpayers' money because you dare not face your voters. Indeed, you should view yourself as a non-Conservative. If you're a Starmerite, I'm afraid it's what I expect of Sir Keir Starmer. He will want to hide from the electorate for a long time to come. But I hope that he will be too ashamed to agree to these scandalous requests to delay elections. And I'm on the side of those who want the elections. For once, I'm even on the side of Sir Ed Davey. But I think Kemi Badenoch opposed the elections being postponed last year, and I'm sure she will again this, because she is a true Conservative who believes in facing the voters. As always, thank you very much for watching.